Travel along, Catholic pilgrims, for 1 year as we read through St. Faustina's diary. Join me, Amy Thomas, each day for a short reading out of the diary which brought us a deeper understanding of Christ's divine mercy. Welcome, Catholic pilgrims, to day 187 of our readings from St. Faustina's diary. So in pretty much everybody's life, there are others who just absolutely drive you nuts, or that are so unlikable that you cannot stand to be in their presence, or that have done things that are so detestable that you almost just dislike them to the point of possibly hatred. I know that sounds harsh, but there have been people in my life who I have at one time or another hated because their actions were just so detestable that I just, it was a very visceral reaction to what they were doing in their lives that made me feel that way. And I'm not saying it's right to hate anybody, but we all kind of struggle with that, don't we? Even if it's somebody like Hitler or Stalin, that visceral reaction, like I was talking about, to hate them almost is very real, and it's something that we all struggle with at one time or another. And so Christianity is that religion that says you can't do that. And that is a huge struggle for us as humans. And so we are going to talk about that today in Notebook 2, numbers 870 through 874. January 6th, 1937. Today, during Holy Mass, I was unwittingly absorbed in the infinite majesty of God. The whole immensity of God's love flooded my soul. At that particular moment, I became aware of how much God abases himself for my sake. He, the Lord of Lords, and what am I, miserable being that I am, that you would commune thus with me? The wonder that took hold of me after this special grace continued very vividly throughout the entire day. Taking advantage of the intimacy to which the Lord was admitting me, I interceded before him for the whole world. At such moments, I have the feeling that the whole world is depending on me. My Master, cause my heart never to expect help from anyone, but I will always strive to bring assistance, consolation, and all manner of relief to others. My heart is always open to the sufferings of others, and I will not close my heart to the sufferings of others, even though because of this I have been scornfully nicknamed Dump. That is, because everyone dumps his pain into my heart. To this I answered that everyone has a place in my heart, and I in return have a place in the heart of Jesus. Taunts regarding the law of love will not narrow my heart. My soul is always sensitive on this point, and Jesus alone is the motive for my love of neighbor. January 7th. During the holy hour, the Lord allowed me to taste his passion. I shared in the bitterness of the suffering that filled his soul to overflowing. Jesus gave me to understand how a soul should be faithful to prayer despite torments, dryness, and temptations, because oftentimes the realization of God's great plans depends mainly on prayer. If we do not persevere in such prayer, we frustrate what the Lord wanted to do through us or within us. Let every soul remember these words. And being in anguish, he prayed longer. I always prolong such prayer as much as is in my power and in conformity with my duty. January 8th. On Friday morning, as I was going to the chapel to attend Holy Mass, I suddenly saw a huge juniper tree on the pavement, and in it a horrible cat who, looking angrily at me, blocked my way to the chapel. One whisper of the name of Jesus dissipated all that. I offered the whole day for dying sinners. During Holy Mass, I felt the closeness of the Lord in a special way. After Holy Communion, I turned my gaze with trust toward the Lord and told him, Jesus, I so much desire to tell you something. And the Lord looked at me with love and said, And what is it that you desire to tell me? Jesus, I beg you, by the inconceivable power of your mercy, that all the souls who will die today escape the fire of hell, even if they have been the greatest sinners. Today is Friday, the memorial of your bitter agony on the cross. Because your mercy is inconceivable, the angels will not be surprised at this. Jesus pressed me to his heart and said, "My beloved daughter, you have come to know well the depths of my mercy. I will do what you ask, but unite yourself continually with my agonizing heart and make reparation to my justice. Know that you have asked me for a great thing, but I see that this was dictated by your pure love for me. That is why I am complying with your requests. Mary, Immaculate Virgin, take me under your special protection and guard the purity of my soul, heart, and body. You are the model and star of my life." So, like I said in the beginning, we all have people that come into our lives that are really, really hard to like. And there are some people that come into our lives that we almost detest. And there are people that we learn about in history, like I said before, like Hitler, Stalin, and Mao, people like that who have caused such widespread devastation and destruction on people that to even think about liking them, let alone loving them, just seems almost abhorrent. Like, how could you ever think of them in a way where you wish them happiness or wanted what was good for them or anything like that? They just don't seem like they deserve it. And there are people that are in our lives or who have come into our lives who have majorly hurt us, and to think of like praying for them to have a good life or wanting what is best for them just seems so counter to how we should feel. Like if someone hurts us, we feel like we are justified in not liking them at all. But as Christians, we know that Christ calls us to something higher. It's easy for the rest of the world to, just hate people that are really bad to them or evil. But as Christians, we're not allowed to hate the person, hate the soul. We can hate the action, absolutely. But we can't hate the person. We cannot wish hell on anybody, no matter what they've done. And that's hard because we see other people out in the world that don't follow the Christian teachings, and they can, hate Hitler or hate Stalin or whatever, but we are not allowed to harbor that kind of hate. And we know why, and that's a conversation for another day, but this is one of the hardest teachings of our Christian faith, to love everybody. Now, we've talked about this before, a long time ago in previous podcasts. Loving somebody doesn't always mean in the same way for everybody. So, obviously, I love my kids in a different way, and I need to give them more time and more attention than just a guy I see walking down the street. But I have to love him in that I have to treat him well, not wish any harm on him, hope that his soul makes it to heaven, those types of things. So there's a difference in how it looks just because more of my time needs to be given to my kids. But when I do interact with said man on the street, it has to be done in a loving way, and obviously setting appropriate boundaries and everything like that. But this is a hard teaching. And so today here we see Sister Faustina in 871. She's talking about how she brings so much suffering into her heart. And she even has this terrible nickname that people call her because everybody dumps their pain into her heart. She's okay with that. But she says she receives taunts regarding the law of love will not narrow my heart. My soul is always sensitive on this point, and Jesus alone is the motive for my love of neighbor. So what Sister Faustina is saying right here, sometimes, yes, it is really hard for me to love a certain person. Like I look at them and I know what they're doing and it's awful and bad, and I would rather just walk away from them. But here is my motive. My motive is Jesus alone. So if we can see Christ in people, even when it's hard, recognizing that they've probably got some kind of hurt in their past that's making them act this way, some unresolved issues. Something has happened in their lives to make them, not a likable person. If we can try to love them for Christ's sake, that is what we are called to do. And we should strive for that. And it's hard. Gosh, it is so hard. And I struggle with it. And I know most people do. I have not met a person who does not struggle with this teaching, because we aren't God. And Jesus has that ability to know and understand everybody's hearts. And he also created every soul. So of course he loves them all. And so we have to remember that if we encounter people that are really hard to love, if we love them for no other reason than Christ alone, that's good. That's good. And not to wish them to hell. Even Sister Faustina today says, Jesus, I beg you, by the inconceivable power of your mercy, that all the souls who will die today escape the fire of hell, even the greatest sinners. That's a hard prayer. That is a very hard prayer, because a lot of us feel like there are people who are really deserving of hell. And we want to kind of see justice play out and see them go to hell because we feel like that's what they deserve. But in all honesty, as hard as it is to realize, it would be what we all deserve. And we all can be great sinners at times. And so we can't be wishing that on other people. And who knows, we may be the incredibly annoying person in someone's life who we are the one that's super hard for them to love. And we would not want them to wish hell upon us, and we wouldn't want them to treat us horribly. And so we have to ask God for the graces, and we have to see Christ in others, even though it's hard, and pray for their souls. Be a good example, be a loving example, and like I said, with appropriate boundaries set. You don't have to always welcome everybody into your life if you have to set appropriate boundaries, but we do need to love people for Christ's sake. That's so important. I have to work on it. I know you all have to work on it. It's something that we all definitely have to work on. So that is all for today, Catholic Pilgrims. I will see you back here for day 188. And until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.